Welcome, artists, educators, and visionaries, to a day dedicated entirely to celebrating the boundless creativity and passion that fuels the world of art. We gathered here, both physically and virtually, to honor World Art Day, a day that stands as a testament to the power of art to inspire, challenge, and transform. Art in its essence is an expression of our shared human experience. It's a dialogue that transcends language and culture, connecting us on a profound level. Every artist here contributes to this ongoing conversation, offering their unique perspective and voice. At New Masters Academy, we've seen firsthand the dedication and hard work demonstrated by each student. It's not just about honing skills, it's about committing to a lifelong journey of learning, experimenting, and evolving. Our mission is to support you on this journey, providing the tools and guidance to help you become the next leaders in the world of art. Today's events are designed to inspire and empower you, whether it's through participating in our timed figure drawing session, engaging in our special Q&A discussions, or exploring what anime has to offer. There's something for everyone to gain. Let's take this opportunity to learn from each other and be inspired by each other's passion, and to celebrate the incredible power of art. And let's not forget, today's also a day of gratitude. We express our deepest appreciation for the artists, the dreamers, the rebels, and the innovators who dare to push the boundaries and redefine what art can be. Your courage and your creations not only enrich our lives, but also pave the way for the next renaissance of master artists. So as we move forward into this day of artistic celebration, let's carry with us a spirit of curiosity and openness. Let's embrace the opportunity to learn from one another, to share our experiences, and to collectively nurture the flame of creativity that burns within each of us. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable day. Here's to a day filled with inspiration, education, and of course celebration. Welcome to World Art Day at New Masters Academy.
All right, so we've done our little, ramshackled drawing here. We're not too concerned about getting things perfect. We just want the landmarks. We want the basic shape. We want to push and break it a little bit. And that's one of my common sayings, is that push it till it breaks, and then you can pull it back. But if you don't push it, then it's constantly the less than you expected from it. So like, for instance, here I'm just honing that again. I thought that could do with another straight on it. So Natalie at the front here of the shop, we're going to do a Q&A, and she says, what's the most common error that students make? And I think it's not enough of this. If this was good enough for Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, surely we should be doing the same thing. I mean, look here, I'm honing this rib cage as we speak. I'm feeling that accordion like this as we talk. So I think the common error is that students don't preamble enough. They don't go in there and find what, like I say, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci did, which was to bash it out before you go in. Bash it out. See, I'm doing this from a different angle now from there. And look how much easier it is when I'm not actually copying from the model. See that? I can move this around, I can do this, I can move those clavicles down, I can turn that head this way. I can do this. That's a broken head. That's pushing it till it breaks there. So I'd have to upend that and get that. So pushing it till it breaks means that we can find out what is the maximum that we can get away with. Sounds like it's some kind of robbery. But that's what I'm doing all the time. And so Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, just the two big hitters there, they did tons of studies before they actually did the actual artwork, whatever that is, whatever they did next. So they did tons of it, and they went in here and found these wonderful shapes that were reoccurring all the time. There's that moment right there. And sure, it's a little bit off. It's a little bit ad hoc. I'd bring this around now to this. All of these things would have to be worked out in advance. And so they did lots of preliminary studies. And that way they could draw with great authority because they had been there already. So that's what this is about. So analysis. And now assist. And I'm proving here that we can basically, if we put enough time to slow down in, we can do what we usually can't really do. I can't spell very well, but I know if I just slow down a little bit, I can. So that's what it's all about. It's about slowing down a little bit and seeing if you can just really work out in advance what is going to be important in this drawing and what's going to trip you up. And from there, everything gets easier and easier. So I'm going to draw on top of this now, and I'm going to use this pencil that I found in the New Masters Academy drawing. It's a Stabilo, and it's a Carbothello, and it's a 1400 670. It doesn't have to be that, it's just a nice pencil. I thought, that's a lovely pencil. So I want to go in here and reanalyze, post-analyze if you like. So I'm going to post-analyze this little study. So we had, let's see, we had the head as an ovoid. We had the rib cage up high there, 7 vertebrae behind that chin now because the head is tilted down. So the rib cage is actually like this now. And it's going in underneath that arm, which is why I thought we should pressure that tricep out a little bit that we didn't get in the reference. The rib cage, remember, it's just an egg shape as an idea, but really it ends there and ends in here. So we got a hand's length here for the clavicles. Remember, the clavicles are shaped like this, so they can go behind the neck. Shaped like this, so they can go behind the neck. So we don't get choked. So there's your clavicles up. And your neck fits in here. So we have now the lower part of the upper abs doing this, which means we have to fit in here the sides of the lower abs. And the hierarchy is that we have the iliac crest here, but the upper abs are above that. So there's a ledge here, like that. So thinking about light ahead of time, there's going to be a ledge there. Like I say, we can get a moment here where it bumps, which is fine, but I would put it in a more plump model. And then it would bump again, and then it would bump again. So for me, I like to really ignore that bump and just go to the great trochanter, like that. Now remember, we have the great trochanter here, so analyze it. It comes out both sides, that's why we have the dip in here. Can go just above that bone, but let's try and keep it under. And so the great trochanter is here, like that. So it is wedded, just like the iliac crest is, to that moment. So iliac crest here, iliac crest there. Now, in the standing up figure, this 10th rib and the iliac crest match up, but we are twisting around like that, so don't get caught up in that. So the rib cage is moved over from its original position here to there, and so no longer is the 10th rib and the iliac crest here. Be very aware of that. That's the same as people forcing the Riley method into a head shape and then losing the personality of the model because they're so wedded with that idea. So be careful of that. So now we have the vastus lateralis coming down to the kneecap, the vastus medialis lower coming down to the kneecap. Around the side here is the femur bone, both sides. Femur bone, huge big condyles. These are called condyles, the outer side of them, the big lumps. And this sartorius and all of the tendinous bundle from the back attach in here. So we have that big sweep. So that's coming up to the iliac crest. So basically crest here, sartorius cutting across, coming out underneath that vastus medialis. That leaves us with the biceps femoris attaching onto the fibula here. And I like to put a hard edge here, and that's style. So remember, we have style. So the more you know these things, then the more stylistic you can be. You have to know them. So that is the tibialis anterior going around. It actually attaches here, like that, underneath the big condyle of the toe. So the big toe is now getting more sophisticated because we know that. So it doesn't come all the way to the toe itself. And also the little toe comes out and in like this. So see how we're making that foot more sophisticated with just those ideas. And there's the tarsal mass. But start with the idea of a sock. Keep it simple, simple to complex. Remember, we're going down at this angle, and on the inside, we're coming down at this angle, like this. We still have the big swell here, but we're not coming down like this anymore. But just be aware that we're going down to a swell here and up to a swell right there. That leaves us with the ice cream cone. It's showing like it just ends there, but it actually goes around to the side here as a ledge, and this fits underneath that ledge. So sartorius from this end is easy to see, and if we went underneath, it's around here. So it's attaching lower. And like we've analyzed on that photograph, we want more of this shape here to take us into that moment. And also, don't lose the chance of getting some of your favorite muscles, whatever they are. Long head of the tricep for me, straight, long, and then a quick curve in, taking us around to this moment where we've got the brachior, coracoid brachialis, like that. I was talking to Daniel, who's the photographer here, about that being a marlin spike for me. Marlin spike. I was in the Navy, and we used this spike that looked exactly like that to thread, wire, rope. It's impossible to do with your hands, so you needed a wire or a marlin spike made of metal to weave the rope. So I think of that, but you can think of your own. Think of your own ideas. And there's the brachialis. So the brachialis, you can think of breaking things, even though brachii means arm. So all those little mnemonics, whatever they mean to you, and push. I'm feeling that shoulder isn't wrapping around enough. So remember, the deltoid wraps like a towel. Imagine a towel coming out the other end like that. It's wrapping around. So it's coming across here like this to wrap around and attach to that little end of the clavicle, the infraclavicular fossa right here. So it's going around the back and the front, and that's why that clavicle peak disappeared, clavicle disappeared, and then became a peak at the top. Okay, so there's all the post-analysis of the analysis. And we could say from there, Pedro, you've got a thing. We all have a thing. So my thing is I'm making these latissimus too big, because I've been drawing lots of male figures recently. And that's feeding back into my subconscious art engine, the internal art engine. And so I'm trying to get out of man world. I've been basically looking at Rajiv a lot. So I'm starting to do bigger latissimus. And you'll find that'll happen a lot. And this pectoralis is getting stretched. So we got to be aware of that. Look at how lovely and serpentine it is. So try and feed into that. And here on the other side, we're seeing it pressuring in here. So inside here also is a pectoralis minor. And it does this. And it's the same as the marlin spike in a reverse. It's doing this. And it's attaching onto the coracoid process in here. So there's a little finger just in there that this is going to. And also this is coming off the coracoid process, coracoid brachialis, coracoid process. You don't have to learn all that stuff, but it's really quite fascinating how we're put together like that. It's such an incredible machine. Ray Bustos calls these the twins, so that even though they're split in the middle, they just look like one moment. And then, like I say, there's a brevis in here, little brevis moment. So most muscles have a secondary smaller muscle to help them out. But basically, if you just take those ones and go for the carpi radialis, or sorry, the carpi extensor ulnaris, you see how quickly you can get confused with these. So the radialis is radiating, going around that way. The carpi extensor ulnaris is just on the ulna. And so it's lifting these little fingers. Well, it's really just to do with that little finger there. But it's going along the ulna. And so it's the carpi, goes down to the carpals, which is the little balls in your wrist here, and along the ulnaris, carpi ulnaris extensor. It extends those moments. This is the flexor, so it's the carpi flexor ulnaris. Same thing, going down to the carpes on the other side and flexing the fingers underneath. So it's doing this. You can actually see the flexors at work. You can actually feel them. Not so much on the top here, but you'll see it in Rajiv. And you can see how much pinch there is here and how we can go further on that side. So the pinch is quick here because this radius is closer. This radius here is closer to the carpals. So we've got a carpal ramp here. And that's a great moment. That's the Renaissance ramp. And so we can get fingers that come off like this and get all that beauty and have the thumb like this. And it's all just beautiful stuff. Now, don't forget the V. Don't forget the swinger on for the eyes, the eyebrows, and the fact that these are linked. So basically the head is fused as well, the skull's fused. Everything's pretty much straight ahead. If you think about the bottom of the chin, bottom of the bottom lip, bottom of the nose, and the eyes, they all line up like this. So make sure, if they don't line up and the chin does that, something's not quite right. And then we can just link them together like this. The widest part is usually around about the center of the mouth. We get the widest part of the jaw, but not always. But it's not a bad place to start. And then you can think of the nose as one eye wide here. So there's a gap, and then it gets wide here at the nostrils. And that's where you fit in. But that's a European nose. So this is all based on the likes of Bridgman, and they only work with European models. So be aware of that as well. They didn't work with anything outside of their own purview. So that's just a general idea. Coming down for the triceps here, which just leaves in the middle here the brachialis. And it turns around. It doesn't go straight here. It turns around in the inside because it's part of the biceps group. So with the Sanconius, we don't want that. We want to just square it off at the end here because that's the olecranon in there. Now you can see that's all muddy and everything, but you know, there was a lot of internal art engine work being fed into this moment here. So this is stronger now. This is stronger every day. Let's not forget our frontalis here for the female figure. So every time, if you ever doubt yourself, you're a better artist every time you draw. Even if you do a bad drawing, you're a better artist than you were the day before when you did a good drawing because you've done another drawing. So every drawing you do, you get better and better. Every little doodle you do, you get better and better. Every bit of play that I do here, I'm getting better and better straight on that bicep, coming around to attach. The leg bends, so the knee changes its position a little bit and starts to get this flat top. All of those little things. The rib cage is going forward and then in. And then we're twisting here. So it's coming out and in, round to that navel, push in like that. So a lot different than just straight ahead, like this. So bit by bit we'll work this out. So we have that beautiful accordion business happening there. So yes, this is a ramshackle drawing, but there's a lot of stuff in it. I could say, okay, that breast would need to come out there. We still have this idea here. So, like I say, when an actor acts, they do their lines, they just speak them. They don't put the emotion in, that's for later. And that's what we're going to do on the next drawing. We're going to put the emotion into it. Like just here for youth, I'll put a little curve in there. Go over the other side and do the same thing. Sternocleidomastoid. Oh yeah, I was talking about a thing, wasn't I? So a thing is when you do the same thing over and over and you're doing it wrong. So address what that is when you get it and work on that. That's your project. Your project is to work on what you're weak at rather than what you're strong at. So most of us want to be, you know, we want to go out, impress our friends and stuff like that. So see if you can do that. Maybe do it in public, you're impressing your friends, but in private, put yourself out there. And I think in public, put yourself out there as well, which is exactly what I'm doing here. You know, I'm willing to fail here because I don't believe in failure. I think failure is just a learning experience. It's just the wrong word for it.
Okay, so I think it's firm enough now to put in the top of the head. Okay. So we're almost to the top. Next session, we'll close off the head and continue to sculpt just the way I did on the clay on armature.
My work in quick sketch has had a positive influence on my work in illustration as well as my animation work. Here's an example. I just love quick sketching basketball games. You have basketball players who are, in most cases, muscular. They're showing off their physiques, and and so by being able to analyze and to observe the action and to put it down quickly has really served a benefit for me to be able to take that same knowledge of basic shapes, getting the structure, the proportions, the perspectives accurate, as well as balance. And in some cases, lack of balance, where you have a player falling, losing his balance and falling, as well as getting that nice feeling of flow and direction and line of action. And so over the years, again, I've been able to develop an eye for catching the action, that particular moment in time, and not only the action itself, but the attitude. The player who comes up and is disappointed with a loss, or exuberant with a win, or he's done something heroic on the basketball court, dunking the basketball, or making the winning shot. But these are, quick sketches that, again, have helped me to be able to enhance my work in illustration. So I'm able to take a quick sketch drawing and turn that quick sketch drawing into an illustration. Here's a case in point. You've got this basketball player in a series of movements going from right to left. You can see the change. And just this basic shape, right? You got to, can't get away from my basic shapes. You got this. It's indicative of this first drawing. You have the player. Again, he's got the head. You got this rectangular shape moving in space. And you end up with basically in your basic shape doing something like this. So you've taken this basic shape from here, we've seen the back and part of the side, and now here. Again, visualizing this basic shape in space. And now taking that basic shape and turn that basic shape into an illustration, but never forgetting these basic shapes that got me to this point. Triangles, circles, rectangles, even more rectangles. And I'm not even concerned about the clothing. Rectangular shape, and he's holding on to a round basketball. Yeah. And the props, the clothing, the trunks, that's what I refer to as props, but they're not really as important as this basic shape. It's our shapes, that are happening in space. You know, rectangles, triangular shapes, more triangles, rectangle shapes, triangular shapes, more triangles, circle, rectangle, rectangle, here, and rectangles, triangular shapes, more triangles, rectangles, triangles, goes rectangles, triangles, and we got a circle here. We're running a room. Yeah. But basically, basic shapes. Again, you can't get away from, here I go again, right? Our four basic shapes. And because I'm familiar with anatomy and the anatomy of the human and animal, I'm able to see shapes in objects and being able to put down quickly those shapes in the sense of seeing a person or an animal move and recognizing the basic shapes that come to mind, as well as keeping in mind not only the positive shapes that I see, but also the negative shapes. You know, your triangle that's happening here. You know, you got a triangle that's happening here. You got somewhat of a triangle that's happening here and here. Somewhat triangles happening here. You got a rectangular shape that's happening here. And even this shape here is triangular. That's going to help me to get how far he's leaning forward based on this triangular shape that I'm seeing from his buttocks up to the back of his head. So there's negative shapes that's happening here. And all this comes with observation and time spent observing the objects that you're going to commit to paper. And I said all that to get to the point of taking this particular knowledge and being able to see and realize that there's something under the skin, as well as just the outside contour and these shapes, these negative shapes and positive shapes that are coming together to form this drawing. If I were, and I did, you know, looking at this figure here, and your quick sketches you should be able to pick any one of your quick sketches and put a skeletal structure underneath. Even though this drawing was done quickly, again, you want to spend 60 seconds or less on a quick sketch. And in this series, you know, putting it down, do I have my balance? Is my proportion? Is my perspective? Are those correct? Those are questions you should ask yourself. And then on top of that, looking at any quick sketch you have, are you able to put a skeletal structure underneath the skin? You know, looking at this pose, yes. You know, I can visualize and see that there's room for every piece of the skeleton. The hips, the shoulder blades, the rib cage, the humerus, the skull. There's room for all that. So any one of your drawings, you should be able to, any one of your quick sketches, you should be able to put a skeletal structure underneath that, even though we're drawing rapidly. And on top of that, you should be able to put a muscle structure underneath that drawing that you have. Because again, when you're doing an illustration, you have more time to devote to your drawing. But is it built on a solid drawing from the beginning? So, this is a good test to see whether or not your quick sketches are really working, is to be able to put a skeletal structure as well as a muscle structure underneath any quick sketch that you do. So just looking at our quick sketch and our skeletal and muscle structure, and to turn that into an illustration, which I've done many times, looking at one of my sketchbooks and finding a drawing or a quick sketch and turn that quick sketch into an actual illustration drawing. Quick sketching is about, for me, it's practice. Quick sketching is my practice in order to be able to do a better illustration, to be able to do better animation work. So based on our quick sketch, we know we have anatomy underneath, so we know that the drawing is solid, right? So now I can take and start to literally make a illustration from this. Even on our props, and I say prop, anything that's not a part of the character that we're drawing. In this case, the trunks and the jersey and even the basketball shoes and socks. He wasn't born with those. He put those on, so that becomes a prop. If he was wearing a hat, that would be a prop. Glasses are props in my vocabulary, right? And so I'm putting on these. In illustration, you have more of an opportunity to take your time and put more drawing in, which is the purpose of a good illustration. And you have to great books on artist anatomy. So, if you're not real familiar with the anatomy of the human body, we're not have to be like Michelangelo or Leonardo to dissect cadavers to find out what's going on with how the human body works and is constructed. Great books, as well as again, we talked about good art instructors who were able to walk you through classes on anatomy for artists. elbows, knees. Again, always thinking about what's underneath the skin, and having a nice drawing that flows, like this line here from the buttocks flows right up into the shoulders, goes right up and down to the elbow itself. Because again, that's the way the human body is constructed, right? It's got these, these lines. This hip is connected also to the knee, right? If we were to draw a line straight on through to that knee, buttock separates and goes down to the knee area, but also goes up the spine and wraps around here. Again, all these lines are united, right? And the neck, the neck connection to the back of the head, the ears. Yeah. And at this point, we get to sort of refine the drawing, because again, when we're doing a quick sketch, we're literally doing a drawing quickly. And so these lines that are indicative of, say, from the knee to the heel, they're just indications of where the lines should be. There's indications. These lines are just indications of where you want your drawing to be. So now we're making a little bit more, take a little bit more time, and we can separate maybe and get a little more distance between the back of the knee and the other back of the knee. And on the opposite side, again, put a little bit more drawing of anatomy into the drawing itself. And keeping in mind that, this would wrap around. Even though we can't see the front of the torso, we got to feel that if we were to keep this line going, it would continue to go right up to here, to the shoulder, because this is bending or squashing into the waist. The upper torso, the chest is going into the waist as he comes and bends forward, right? And it's a nice stretch, back portion. So even if we're just talking our way through this, we're making our line work count.